Hello. Today I'm going to show you how to make sourdough bread the old-fashioned way, using only 4 ingredients: flour, water, salt, and thyme. It does take about 24 hours from start to finish, so it's going to be a lot to cover in 5 minutes, but luckily it's a video, so you can go back, start over, rewind, pause, and ponder to your heart's content. One ingredient we won't need is a packet of dry yeast. In fact, I don't even have a packet of dry yeast. That was a tea bag. I'm going to assume you already have a sourdough starter. If you don't, that's a whole nother video for a whole nother time. But this is mine. His name is Fred. Fred will be doing most of the work in this process. We will be making a leaven, mixing and folding the dough, shaping the dough, and baking the bread. I'm going to be making 2 loaves today, so the ingredients will be measured based on that. If you only want to make 1 loaf, halve the ingredients. If you want to make 4, double it, because that's how math works. All right, let's get started.
First, we need to create the leaven, which is just prepping your sourdough starter. I recommend weighing your ingredients when baking. I'll take 40 grams of my starter, 80 grams of flour, and 80 grams of water. Mix and wait until it doubles in size, usually about 5 hours. Next, we'll mix our ingredients: 900 grams of flour and 690 grams of water. I'm using a mix of bread flour and whole wheat flour, but feel free to experiment with different flour combinations. A little rye flour works well also. All 200 grams of the doubled leaven, and 18 grams of salt. Mix with your hands until all the ingredients are incorporated. Cover and let sit for 90 minutes. In 90 minutes, we'll come back and do what's called stretch and fold. Wet your hands to prevent dough sticking and to add a little moisture back in the dough. It will dry out a bit while sitting. Take dough from one side of the bowl, stretch it up, and fold it over the top. Then same with dough from the other side. Then again with dough from the remaining sides. You may be used to seeing bakers punching and kneading their dough, but I haven't found that to be necessary. What you are doing here is stretching out the gluten molecules that are forming and folding them over each other. Don't pull enough to break the dough, just stretch it. This will form a good gluten structure and give great texture. Repeat this step 3 times total, waiting 90 minutes between each set. By the third stretch and fold, you should be able to see and feel the dough getting tighter and harder to stretch. That's good, and it means it's ready for bulk fermentation. Cover and put in a warm place. 80 degrees is great. An oven with the light on is usually enough if it's cooler in your kitchen. Fermentation can take anywhere from 5 to 12 hours. Experiment with what you like best and what fits your schedule. I often let it ferment overnight. The longer it ferments, the more sour it will be. After bulk fermentation, we will shape the loaves. Pour the dough onto a lightly floured surface. It should be twice the size as before the bulk fermentation. If not, don't worry, there is more time for it to rise. Cut it into the desired number of loaves and loosely shape it. This is actually a pre-shape, so just get it roughly the shape you want it to be with the smooth top. Cover and let sit for 10 minutes to settle into its shape. Uncover and let sit another 10 minutes for the top of the dough to slightly dry. Next, we'll do the proper shaping. Flip the dough over and gently fold it like an envelope, folding the top to the middle, the sides to the middle, then last the bottom to the middle, forming a single seam of dough. This shape is called a boule and is the simplest to start with. There are a lot of different shapes you can experiment with as well. Flip it seam side down and gently cup and pull the dough toward you. The bottom should stick slightly to the counter as you pull, and the top of the dough should stretch and tighten. Do this a few times until the top is tight but not tearing. Flip it into a basket lined with floured linen. Put the basket in a plastic bag, loosely clipped, to keep in moisture and keep it in the fridge for another 5 to 12 hours. This is called the proofing stage, and lots of flavor develops in this stage as the yeast continues to break down the flour. After proofing, it's time to bake. Preheat the oven to 500 degrees and make sure you have good oven mitts because that's hot. Let the cast iron heat for at least 30 minutes before baking. I prefer using a cast iron Dutch oven setup to help retain moisture during the bake, and cast iron is cheap and lasts forever. Flip the dough onto a piece of parchment paper for easy transfer and score the loaves with a razor or a sharp knife, or if you're professional, a lame. Score in any pattern you want to direct the rise in the oven. In Michael Suaz's book, Advanced Bread and Pastry, the historical use of scoring was to create a unique trademark that allowed an individual baker to track their goods in the market. Cover the loaf with the Dutch oven to keep in steam for the first part of the bake, and turn down the oven to 475 degrees. Bake for 20 minutes. Remove the top of the Dutch oven and bake for another 15 to 30 minutes at 450 degrees to your desired crust brownness. Remove onto a wire rack to cool, and that's it. You've built your leaven, mixed and folded your dough, shaped your loaves, and baked your bread. The last step is the most important. Eat it.